Lieutenant Oliver Barnes couldn't believe his eyes. The strange object on his ship's radar screen wasn't space junk or a satellite. It was moving in ways that defied normal spaceflight. He sat straighter in his chair aboard the HMS Defender, Britain's newest space patrol vessel. "Control, this is Lieutenant Barnes. I've got an unidentified object at coordinates 47 Mark III. Requesting permission to investigate," he said into his radio. His hands were steady on the controls, but his heart was racing. The reply came quickly. "Permission granted, Lieutenant. Maintain safe distance and record everything." As the HMS Defender drew closer, Oliver could see that the object was clearly not human-made. It was smooth and oval-shaped, with a surface that seemed to shimmer like soap bubbles in sunlight. The ship was about half the size of his patrol vessel. Suddenly, his communication system crackled to life with an odd sound, like music mixed with whispers. After a few seconds, it changed into clear English. "Greetings, Earth vessel. This is Research Ship Lumina of the Galactic Scientific Council. We come in peace." Oliver took a deep breath. His training hadn't really covered first contact with aliens. "This is Lieutenant Oliver Barnes of the British Space Command. Welcome to Earth space." There was a pause. Then, "Lieutenant Barnes, we are surprised. Our sensors must be malfunctioning. They suggest you are operating in 1G gravity." "That's correct," Oliver replied, confused. "Standard Earth gravity." Another pause. "Impossible. No spacefaring species could evolve in such conditions. The muscle and bone density required. May we dock for visual confirmation?" After getting approval from Control, Oliver guided the ships into a docking procedure. He was joined by his second-in-command, Lieutenant Mary Parker, as they waited by the airlock. When the door opened, they met their first aliens. 3 tall, thin beings stepped through, moving carefully and seeming to struggle with each step. They wore what looked like mechanical assist suits on their legs. Their skin was pale blue, and they had large, gentle eyes that reminded Oliver of deer. The tallest alien bowed slightly. "I am lead researcher Venn. We apologize for our difficulty moving. Your gravity is extreme. We evolved on a world with 1/3 your gravity. Most known species come from similar environments." Mary and Oliver exchanged looks. "This is normal for us," Mary said. "We've never known anything different." Venn's large eyes widened even more. "Fascinating. Your muscles, your bones, they must be incredibly dense. Your power-to-mass ratio would be..." The alien pulled out a device, made some calculations, and then dropped it in shock. "Is everything all right?" Oliver asked, stepping forward to help. The quick movement made the alien step back nervously. "Please," Venn said, "move more slowly. In your gravity, with your density, a simple gesture from you could seriously injure us. We now understand why your system was marked as a death world in ancient charts, but we never imagined intelligent life could evolve here, let alone achieve spaceflight." Oliver tried to move more carefully as he picked up the drop device. The aliens watched in amazement as he handled it easily in what they considered crushing gravity. "Your people must be among the strongest species in the galaxy," Venn said with clear respect in their translated voice. "We would very much like to open diplomatic relations with Earth." As Oliver began the first official conversation between Earth and the galactic community, he couldn't help but smile at the irony. Humans had always looked to the stars expecting to find superior beings. Instead, they were being looked at with awe because of something they'd taken for granted, their own planet's gravity. "Control," he radioed. "You're going to want to hear this. And maybe get the Prime Minister on the line. Things are about to get very interesting." Behind him, he could hear Venn explaining to their colleagues about human bone density, and Mary trying not to laugh at their shocked reactions. First contact wasn't going anything like the movies, but maybe that was a good thing. Sometimes, being strong wasn't about having the biggest guns or the fastest ships. Sometimes, it was just about where you came from. 3 months after first contact, Rose Hampton stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. The room was massive, with ceiling heights designed to accommodate all kinds of alien species. As Earth's ambassador, she felt small but not afraid. The past weeks had been busy. Scientists from Earth had learned that humans were unique. They came from what aliens called a death world. Most alien races evolved on planets with much less gravity. This made humans naturally stronger than almost every other species in the galaxy. But not everyone was happy about Earth joining the galactic community, especially not the Viridian Empire. These primitives only achieved spaceflight a century ago, sneered High Commander Pell of the Viridians. Even in his mechanical assistant suit, he tried to look down at Rose. The Viridians were tall and thin, with gray skin that sparkled in the light. They are not ready for galactic society. Rose kept her face calm, though she wanted to frown. The Viridians have been causing trouble ever since Earth was invited to join the Council. They were one of the oldest spacefaring races and thought they were better than everyone else. With respect, High Commander, Rose said, speaking slowly and clearly, how long a species has had spaceflight doesn't show what they can do. Humans have much to offer the galaxy. Pell laughed, and other Viridian officials laughed with him. Offer? What could you offer? You're barely out of your own solar system. Rose smiled. Lieutenant Barnes, who had made first contact, had taught her something important about alien psychology. They were fascinated by human strength, but also scared of it. She could use that. Then perhaps we should prove ourselves, she said. I propose a challenge. The room went quiet. Even the floating jellyfish-like beings in the corner stopped glowing for a moment. What kind of challenge? Asked Pell, his silver eyes narrowing. A physical competition, Rose said. Your best athletes against ours. If we win, Earth gets full membership in the Galactic Council and recognition as an equal species. If we lose, we'll accept protectorate status under the Viridian Empire. Gasps filled the room. Protectorate status would mean giving up independence. It was a huge risk. But Rose knew something the Viridians didn't. Before coming to this meeting, she had talked with Dr. Eleanor Wright, Earth's leading expert on alien biology. The doctor had discovered that even the strongest aliens had muscles only half as dense as human ones. In their natural gravity, they were graceful and fast. But in strength and endurance, humans had a big advantage. Pell's face showed a mix of emotions, doubt, anger, and then a sly smile. Agreed, he said quickly. We accept this challenge, but we will set the events, and they will take place in standard galactic gravity. Rose nodded, trying not to show her relief. The Viridians thought lower gravity would make things harder for humans. They didn't know that humans had been training in low gravity for months. The games will be held in 3 months, Pell announced. All species will be invited to watch, and then everyone will see how primitive humans really are. As Rose left the council chamber, her assistant Thomas walked beside her. Was that wise, ma'am? He asked quietly. The Viridians have been competing in low gravity for thousands of years. Rose smiled. Yes, they have. But they've never competed against someone who trains in gravity 3 times stronger than theirs. Call William Fletcher at the Royal Marines. Tell him we need his best people. She looked back at the council chamber, where Pell was already bragging to his allies. The Viridians think they're setting us up to fail, she said. But they just gave us exactly what we wanted. A chance to show the galaxy what humans can really do. Above them, on the great screens that floated in the air, the news was already spreading. Humanity, CHALLENG is VERTGI. In Empire, Galactic Games, to DTT or Mini Earth's FAT. The real games were about to begin. William Fletcher stood in the massive training facility built inside an old RAF base in Scotland. The room was special. It could change its gravity to match any planet in the galaxy. Right now, it was set to 1/3 of Earth's gravity, and his team was learning to move in it. Again. He called out to the 4 people floating around the room. Remember, less force, more control. Emma Clark, the gymnast, flipped gracefully through the air. In normal gravity, she was amazing. In low gravity, she looked like she was flying. She landed softly on a platform, barely making a sound. Next to her, James Morrison, the parkour expert, bounced from wall to wall. He had learned quickly that his usual moves needed to be gentler here. "It's like moving through water," he said, but without the resistance. Lucy Bradford, the weightlifter, was having a harder time. She kept using too much force, sending herself crashing into the ceiling. But William knew that once she got control, she would be unstoppable. Even in low gravity, her strength was incredible. "Better," William said, watching them practice. He had been a Royal Marine for 15 years before this job. Teaching people to fight was one thing, but teaching them to move in different gravity, that was new. Just then, Dr. Eleanor Wright walked in, carrying her tablet. She had been studying alien sports videos for weeks. "William, you need to see this," she said, showing him the screen. The video showed Viridian athletes in their own games. They moved like dancers, smooth and fast. But William noticed something interesting. "They never touch each other," he said. "All their sports, they keep their distance." Eleanor nodded. "They're afraid of contact. Their bones are like bird bones, light and hollow. One hard bump could break them." William smiled. This was useful information. He turned back to his team. "New exercise." He called out, "Partner work." The team gathered around him, floating gently in the low gravity. William explained his idea. "The Viridians don't like touching. They're not used to contact sports. But we are. Emma, Lucy, show them rugby in low gravity." The 2 women grinned. They had both played rugby in school. Soon, they were practicing tackles and passes, but gentler, adapted for the low gravity. It looked like a slow-motion dance, but William could see how it would work in the games. James and the 4th team member, Robert Turner, joined in. Robert was a rock climber, and he had already figured out how to use the smallest push to move exactly where he wanted. "The Viridians think low gravity will make us weak," William told them as they practiced. "But it just makes us faster. We're used to fighting against Earth's gravity. Here, we can do things they've never seen." Eleanor watched them train, taking notes. "The Viridians have been sending messages," she said quietly to William. "They keep asking what events we want to practice for." "But you haven't told them." She shook her head. "No, they're trying to find out our strengths so they can pick events we'll be bad at. But they don't know that we're practicing everything." William watched as Lucy finally got her control right, moving through the air like she weighed nothing, but still able to use her strength when needed. Emma was teaching James how to twist in ways that would look impossible in normal gravity. 2 more months, William said. 2 months to teach them everything they need to know. Eleanor looked at her tablet again. "The news from the council is that 50 alien species are coming to watch the games. The Viridians are telling everyone it will be entertaining to watch humans fail." William laughed. "They're going to be surprised," he said, "because we're not going to just compete. We're going to change how the galaxy thinks about humans." Above them, Lucy Bradford had just done a perfect flip while carrying James on her shoulders, something that would be impossible for any alien to do, even in low gravity. The games were coming, and Earth was going to be ready. Dr. Eleanor Wright sat in her lab, staring at her computer screen. It was 3 a.m., but she couldn't sleep. What she had just discovered was too important. "This can't be right," she said to herself, checking the numbers again. She had been studying videos of alien athletes for weeks, but tonight she had finally finished analyzing their endurance data. She grabbed her phone and called William Fletcher. He answered on the 3rd ring, sounding sleepy. "Eleanor, what's wrong?" "You need to come to the lab," she said. "Now, and bring Lucy Bradford with you." An hour later, Lucy and William stood in Eleanor's lab, watching as she showed them her discovery on the big screen. "Look at this," Eleanor said, pointing to two charts. "The red line shows how long Viridian athletes can exercise. The blue line shows human endurance. See the difference?" Lucy leaned closer. "They stop after only an hour." "Exactly," Eleanor said. "They're like sprinters, not marathon runners. Their bodies evolved on a low-gravity world. They never needed to build up endurance like we did." William crossed his arms. "So in a long competition, they'll get tired," Eleanor finished. "Very tired. But there's more." She switched to another screen showing bone scans. "Remember how I said their bones were like bird bones? Well, our bones are almost 3 times denser than theirs. Even in low gravity, we're stronger than they can ever be." Lucy smiled. She had been worried about competing in low gravity, but this changed everything. "So all those hours of training in the gravity chamber were exactly what we needed," William said. "We've been teaching you to control your strength, but we should have been focusing on outlasting them too." Just then, Eleanor's computer beeped. A new message had arrived from the Galactic Council. She opened it, and her face turned serious. "The Viridians have announced the competition events," she said, reading quickly. 3 days of games. Day 1 is speed events. Day 2 is strength tests. And Day 3. She stopped, looking surprised. "What is it?" Lucy asked. "Day 3 is something called the Endurance Trial. A 6-hour competition where athletes have to keep moving and performing tasks." Eleanor looked up at them. "They think they're setting a trap for us. They think we'll be too tired by Day 3. William laughed. 6 hours. Lucy here runs marathons for fun. James does parkour all day without stopping. Emma could do gymnastics in her sleep." But Eleanor held up her hand. "There's something else. I've been monitoring Viridian communications. They've been sending ships to the competition planet every week. More ships than they need." She pulled up another screen showing ship movements. "I think they're planning something. These extra ships, they're not passenger ships or cargo ships. They're much smaller." Lucy frowned. "Could they be cheating somehow?" "Maybe," William said. "But now we know to watch for it." He turned to Lucy. "Get the team together. Starting tomorrow, we train for endurance. If they want a long game, we'll give them one they'll never forget." As Lucy left to call the others, Eleanor showed William one last piece of data. "There's one more thing," she said. "In Earth's history, humans used to do persistence hunting. We would chase animals until they got too tired to run." William nodded. "And no other species in the galaxy evolved that way. None of them can match our stamina. In the entire galaxy, we are the only persistence predators." William thought about what that meant. The Viridians thought they were setting a trap, but they didn't understand what humans really were. They didn't know that humans had evolved to keep going when everything else had to stop. "Get some rest," he told Eleanor. "Tomorrow, we start teaching our team how to hunt Viridian style, by making them run until they can't run anymore." As he left the lab, William smiled. The Viridians had just made their first big mistake, and they didn't even know it yet. The stadium on Nova Prime was unlike anything the human team had ever seen. The huge dome could hold 100,000 spectators, and today it was full. Beings of all shapes and sizes had come to watch the games. Henry Matthews, the team's strategist, stood with the Earth team in their waiting area. Through the window, he could see the Viridian team warming up. They moved like dancers in the low gravity, their silver skin catching the light. "Remember the plan," Henry told his team. "Day 1 is their strong point. We don't need to win every event. We just need to stay close." Emma Clark nodded, stretching her muscles. The gravity here was set to 1/3 of Earth's, just like they had practiced. "They're speed events first, right?" "Yes," Henry said, checking his tablet. "They picked races and agility tests. Things they think they're best at." He smiled. "But they don't know about your zero-gravity training. The first event was called the Star Run. Athletes had to race through a three-dimensional course, touching glowing points in the right order. The Viridians went first, and they were amazing. Their lead runner finished in 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Then it was Emma's turn. As she stepped onto the starting platform, the crowd went quiet. Many of them had never seen a human in real life before. Go! The signal flashed, and Emma pushed off. In the training room back on Earth, she had learned something important. In low gravity, every push had to be perfect. Too hard, and you'd fly past your target. Too soft, and you'd move too slowly. She touched the first point, then twisted her body, just like she'd practiced. The Viridians moved like they were swimming through air. Emma moved like she was dancing between stars. Henry watched the clock. 3 minutes and 25 seconds, he said when she finished. Only 5 seconds behind them. The Viridian team looked shocked. They had expected to win easily. Their captain, a tall athlete named Vel, was talking quickly to his teammates and pointing at the humans. James Morrison went next, in an event called the Web Challenge. Athletes had to climb through a maze of energy beams without touching them. The Viridians had won this event for 100 years, but they had never competed against a parkour expert who had trained in multiple gravity settings. James moved through the web like he could see the perfect path, his body turning and twisting in ways that made the audience gasp. Second place again, Henry said, marking his notes. We're closer than they expected. Lucy Bradford competed in the last event of the day, something called the Crystal Run. Athletes had to carry delicate crystal spheres through an obstacle course. The Viridians were graceful, barely touching the crystals as they moved. Lucy was different. She didn't try to be graceful. She was careful and strong, her powerful muscles perfectly controlled even in the low gravity. When she finished, she was only a few points behind the Viridian runner. At the end of day one, the Viridians were winning, but not by much. Henry could see worry on their faces as they looked at the scoreboard. Sir, one of the human team's security officers called to Henry. You should see this. On his screen were pictures of those small Viridian ships that Eleanor had noticed. They were unloading something into the stadium's water supply. Tell Isabella Thompson, Henry said quietly. Our intelligence officer needs to find out what they're planning. Back in the team area, William Fletcher was smiling. Good work today, he told his team. We're right where we want to be. They think they're winning. Emma looked at the scoreboard. But we lost every event. No, William said. We didn't lose. We showed them that even at their own games, we can match them. Tomorrow is strength events. And then, he grinned, then comes the endurance trial. That's when we show them what humans can really do. The first day was over, but the real competition was just beginning. Isabella Thompson moved silently through the dark corridors beneath the stadium. As Earth's intelligence officer, she had done many difficult jobs before, but sneaking around an alien stadium was new. The small device in her hand blinked faster as she got closer to the water treatment room. Dr. Eleanor Wright had given her the detector before she left Earth. It could find any strange chemicals in the water. East corridor clear, came a whisper through her earpiece. Robert Turner, the rock climber from their team, was watching the security cameras from their control room. He had found a way into the alien security system on the first day. Isabella reached the water room door. It had an alien lock, but she had prepared for that. She pulled out a small device that Lieutenant Barnes had given her, something they had learned from studying alien technology. The door opened with a soft hiss. Inside, large tanks bubbled with glowing blue water. This was where they prepared the drinks for all the athletes. Her detector started beeping loudly. Found something, she whispered to Robert. She pulled out a small tube and collected a water sample. The detector's screen showed strange chemicals, ones that weren't supposed to be there. Suddenly, she heard voices. Viridian voices, coming closer. Hide. Robert's voice hissed in her ear. 2 guards coming your way. Isabella looked around quickly. The room had many tanks and pipes. She squeezed into a small space between two large containers, making herself as small as possible. Two tall Viridian figures walked in. In the dim light, their silver skin looked almost white. "The humans are stronger than we expected," one said. "Are you sure the treatment will work?" "It's already in the system," the other replied. "The chemical affects dense muscle tissue. By tomorrow's strength events, their muscles will be weak. They won't know what hit them." Isabella held her breath. So that's what the strange ships were doing. Bringing chemicals to cheat in the games. And it can't be traced. No, it breaks down in 12 hours. By the time anyone tests for it, it will be gone. The Viridians checked some readings on the tanks and then left. Isabella waited until Robert gave her the all-clear before moving. "Did you get all that?" she asked. "Every word," Robert replied. "It's all recorded. But what do we do now? If we report this, they'll just deny it and hide the evidence." Isabella smiled in the dark. "We do something they won't expect. Get the team together. And call Dr. Wright. I need to know exactly what this chemical does." An hour later, the human team sat in their private room, listening to Isabella's recording. Dr. Wright was on a video call, looking at the chemical analysis Isabella had sent. "It's clever," Eleanor said. "The chemical targets dense muscle tissue. For most species, it would do nothing. But for humans, with our dense muscles, it would make us weak." William Fletcher finished, just in time for the strength events. Lucy Bradford punched a wall in anger, leaving a small dent. "We should report them. They're cheating." But Isabella held up her hand. "I have a better idea. They think they're being clever, targeting what makes us different. So let's use that against them." She explained her plan. As she talked, the team's faces changed from anger to surprise, and then to smiles. "It's risky," Henry Matthews said. "If it goes wrong." "It won't," Isabella said, "because we have something they don't understand. They think our strength comes from our muscles, but that's not what makes humans special." William nodded. "Our real strength is here," he said, tapping his head. "And here." He put his hand over his heart. "So we're agreed?" Isabella asked. "We do this our way." One by one, the team nodded. They had trained too hard to give up now. The Viridians thought they could win by cheating. Tomorrow, they would learn that humans were far more dangerous than they knew. And they would learn it the hard way. The morning of the strength events arrived with a surprise for the Viridians. The human team walked into the stadium drinking large bottles of the stadium's water, taking big gulps right in front of them. Vil, the Viridian captain, watched with a hidden smile. He didn't know that Isabella had found their secret. He didn't know that Dr. Wright had already made an antidote, and he definitely didn't know what the humans had planned. First event, the announcer called. The gravity pull. Lucy Bradford stepped forward. The event was simple. Athletes had to lift weights in varying gravity fields. The Viridians expected the drugged humans to fail badly. The gravity changed to Earth normal. Lucy lifted the weight easily. Then it changed to double Earth gravity. Lucy kept lifting. The Viridians watched in shock. "How?" Vil whispered to his teammates. "The chemical should be working." But Lucy wasn't finished. As the gravity increased again, she showed no signs of stopping. The Viridians had never seen anything like it. Final weight, triple Earth gravity, the announcer called. Lucy lifted the weight over her head like it was nothing. The stadium went silent, then burst into cheers. Next came Emma's event, the reaction course. The gravity would change randomly, and athletes had to adjust their movements instantly. The Viridians thought their drug would make humans too weak to handle it. But Emma had trained for this. Every time the gravity shifted, she moved perfectly. When she finished, she had the highest score ever recorded. James took on the balance trial, moving through shifting gravity fields while carrying heavy objects. He didn't just complete it. He danced through it, making it look easy. "Something's wrong," Vel said to his team. They should be weakening. By the end of the day, the humans hadn't just won. They had broken every record. The Viridians were panicking. That night, Isabella walked up to Vel in the athletes' area. Interesting day, she said casually. Your team looks worried. Vel tried to look calm. Just tired. I understand, Isabella said. It must be hard, watching your plan fail. She held up a small tube of blue water. Especially when you worked so hard on this. Vel's silver face turned pale. How did you? We knew about the drug yesterday, Isabella said. We could have reported you, but we chose to beat you fairly instead, even with your drug working exactly as planned. Working? Vel looked confused. But your team was stronger than ever. Isabella smiled. The drug did weaken our muscles. We were operating at about half our normal strength all day. Vel stepped back in shock. Half? That's impossible. Those records you broke were set while we were drugged, yes. Isabella's voice was steel now. Imagine what we could have done at full strength. Imagine what we'll do tomorrow, when the drug wears off. She turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and Vel. Tomorrow is the endurance trial. 6 hours of continuous competition. No drugs, no tricks. Just you against us. She smiled. Sweet dreams. Vel watched her walk away, finally understanding what they were dealing with. The humans hadn't just beaten their trap. They had used it to prove a point. Even at half strength, humans were stronger than any species in the galaxy. And tomorrow was the endurance trial. The event that Dr. Wright had said humans were uniquely suited for. The event that William Fletcher had been training his team for all along. In their private room, William gathered his team. Tomorrow, he said, we show them everything. No holding back. No playing nice. They tried to weaken us, and we still broke their records. Lucy grinned. Tomorrow we're back at full strength. Tomorrow, William said, we show the galaxy what humans can really do. The team looked at each other, smiling. The Viridians had tried to use their greatest strength against them. Instead, they had only made humans look even stronger. Tomorrow would be a day the galaxy would never forget. Lieutenant Oliver Barnes stood in the crowded stadium, watching the final event begin. 6 months ago, he had made first contact with alien life. Now, he was about to witness humanity's greatest sporting achievement. The endurance trial course stretched out like a giant playground. For 6 hours, athletes would run, climb, swim, and solve puzzles in changing gravity fields. No breaks, no stops, just continuous movement. They don't stand a chance, Dr. Eleanor Wright said beside him. The drug has worn off, and our team is at full strength. The Viridian team started strong, their silver bodies flashing as they moved through the course. But after the first hour, something changed. They started slowing down. By the second hour, they were breathing hard. The human team, however, kept going. Lucy Bradford powered through strength obstacles like they were nothing. Emma Clark solved the zero-gravity puzzles with perfect grace. James Morrison and Robert Turner worked together on the climbing challenges, never slowing down. Look at the Viridians, Henry Matthews said from the coaches' area. They'd never seen anything like this. The alien audience watched in amazement. They had never seen athletes compete for this long without stopping, but the humans showed no signs of tiring. By the 4th hour, half the Viridian team had dropped out. Their bodies weren't made for this kind of sustained effort, but the humans kept going, their movements still strong and controlled. This is what we evolved to do, Eleanor explained to the alien scientists watching nearby. On Earth, we used to hunt by chasing animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. We can sweat to cool down. We can keep moving for hours. We are persistence hunters. In the 5th hour, something unexpected happened. The remaining Viridian athletes started making mistakes. They were too tired to focus. One of them nearly fell from a high platform, but James Morrison quickly moved to catch them. Why did you help? The Viridian athlete asked, confused. "We tried to drug you. Because that's what humans do," James said, helping them to safety. "We compete hard, but we don't let others get hurt." The final hour was no longer a competition, it was a demonstration. The human team worked together, completing challenges while also helping exhausted Viridian athletes safely leave the course. When the signal sounded ending the 6 hours, the stadium erupted in cheers. The human team had not only won, they had shown something the galaxy had never seen before. They had shown strength, endurance, and compassion all at once. High Commander Pell stood up in the official box, his face dark with anger. But before he could speak, Rose Hampton, Earth's ambassador, stepped forward. "The games are over," she announced. "Earth has won its place in the Galactic Council. But we offer the Viridian Empire something more important than victory. We offer friendship." She held out her hand to Pell. The gesture was clear in any language. Peace, not war. For a long moment, Pell stared at her hand. Then, slowly, he reached out and took it. The stadium cheered even louder. Oliver watched as alien spectators crowded around the human team, asking questions, wanting to touch them, trying to understand how they had done it. "Sir," a voice called. Oliver turned to see a group of aliens he hadn't seen before. They were short but muscular, with thick skin. "We are from another high-gravity world," one said. "We have been hiding our strength, afraid the other species would fear us. But after seeing your people today," Oliver smiled. "Earth would be honored to have allies who understand what it means to be strong." As he looked around the stadium, Oliver saw the future changing. Humanity hadn't just won a sporting event. They had changed how the galaxy saw strength itself. They had shown that being powerful didn't mean you had to be cruel. "Lieutenant Barnes," Rose called. "The Council is ready for Earth's official acceptance ceremony." Oliver nodded, following her. In just 6 months, everything had changed. Humanity had faced its first galactic challenge and shown what they were truly made of. They were no longer just another species. They were Earth's humans, the most lethal and most compassionate species in the galaxy. And the galaxy would never be the same.